So this brings me to our yarn, which is absolutely stunning. And we reached out to Jay and Nikki, owners of Laneras Yarn, to help us pull this all together. They're based in Southern California in San Diego. And we sent the postcard and they came up with these amazing California Sun and Paradise Cove colors, which was just exactly what my brain was envisioning for the design for box number 3. And so they've created a really nice, beautiful behind the scenes video of creating your yarn. And I'm going to play that for you right now. That was just so great. Let me stop my share here. That was just, that was
so special.
Such a really great video. So everybody, I would like to welcome Nikki and Jay from Laneras, who have joined us from hot and windy Southern California. Hi.
Hi,
thank you so much for taking time out of your Sunday to join us here on the Good Vibes Yarn Tour and for agreeing to be part of the tour and creating this beautiful yarn. So I think my first question for you guys is just going to be right at the basic. How did you get into the yarn dyeing business?
Well, that's interesting, actually. So Jay has always been a creative person, painting, woodworking, doing all kinds of art, just whatever. And he was kind of in between projects. And I am an obsessive knitter and have been for years. And so he was looking for something to do. And I told him, why don't you dye some yarn? You know what? Why don't we try it? Why don't we do it? If anything else, I'll knit with it, you know, however it turns out. If it doesn't turn out worth sharing with anybody else, at least I'll have some yarn to knit with. So what did you do?
Well, I have no idea how to dye yarn whatsoever. I knew what a sheep was and what it looked like or what yarn is, because I went to agricultural school when I was younger. And so we still raise sheep and whatnot, you know. And so that's, I started digging and digging, and all of a sudden I was dyeing yarn.
Yeah, we got all kinds of books and watched a million videos. And but he's, as he mentioned, he went to school, agricultural school in Uruguay, And so when it came to sourcing our yarn, and we tried looking all over it, where are we going to source our yarn? That's where we ended up going back. It was to Uruguay and back to where he's from, because the wool is really, without comparison, the wool that they raise in Uruguay, I think.
Right.
So you want to talk to them about?
Yeah,
Yeah, that was my next question, actually, is if you could tell us a little bit about where you source your yarn and the connections you have there. Because I know you gave me a snippet of that earlier this week, and it's just fascinating and so in line with what we're trying to do with the Good Vibes Yarn Tour. So if you wanted to talk about that, that would be great.
Sure. So basically, we want to find the best yarn we could possibly buy, and for our future customers. You know, there's a lot of yarn companies out there, and some really good ones, and some other ones not so good ones. But we wanted to find the best quality that we could find. And I knew that Uruguay is second to none when it comes down to yarn. You know, we got people from Australia, they buy our yarn, and they even say that they can't believe this is merino, you know, and our merino sheep in Uruguay comes from Australia. So you compare the temperature, the soil, it's, you know, it affects the quality of the yarn, the wool, I should say. And that's why an Australian can look at the Uruguayan yarn and merino and compare, you know, pound to pound, and they will admit that it's actually really good. You know, it's actually really good. So we started looking at, you know, different companies that were very eco-friendly as far as processing, washing the yarn and all that stuff. And luckily Uruguay has really high standards for processing wool and using renewable resources and whatnot. You know,
well, also high standards for how the animals are treated, for the animal welfare, and raising them in the most friendly way possible, I guess, because that also affects the yarn, you know, the way that the sheep are treated and how they're raised and everything. And so the farmers in Uruguay realize that if they're going to have the best product, then they need to treat the sheep as the best way possible. And so they have very high standards at a countrywide level as far as sheep welfare goes. But then also the companies that process the yarn, they're developed enough where they have basically 98% of their energy is renewable energy through wind energy, mostly through water as well. And they have like eucalyptus groves that they treat the water that is used for processing the wool, and they water the eucalyptus groves, and then those eucalyptus groves then are used to fuel the boilers. And so it's a continually renewable, everything is self-contained process, which we thought was really amazing. And when we were trying to source our wool, we were like, that, we want that exactly. Like, this is amazing. We want to work with these people. So.
Right. And also the families that raise the sheep, you know, we're talking about families that they've been doing this for generations, you know, for, I don't know, 3 or 4 generations doing the same thing, you know, so they know exactly how to care for sheep, you know, and they produce the best yarn. It's just like a tree can tell you a lot about what it went through its life, you know, like if there was a drought, it will show in the wood, you know, or if it was too much water, it will show. The same thing with the fiber, the wool. It's there. If you go down to the microscope, you're gonna see that the animal was either mistreated or something. There's a mark, and so we're very happy to be part of this. You know, this conscious farmers, and there's other companies that wash the yarn, the wool and whatnot. So that's basically, you know, why we chose these companies. And then that was the wool, and there was so I called Uruguay, and it's very easy to make connections in Uruguay because it's such a small country. There's only 3 million people, you know, 3.5, something like that. So there's way more sheep than people in Uruguay, you know, like 2-to-1 or 3-to-1, something like that, outrageous, you know. So I made a couple of phone calls, and I got a hold of these companies that would provide the wool, and then I said, okay, well, I need somebody to actually
to spin it
for us, you know. And so I got this phone number and I called the guy and said, yeah, I can definitely do this for you. And I said, well, we don't want to just provide a yarn that is just like any other yarn in the market. We want something different. So we came out with, well, Nikki, really, I should say, the opposite plying technique, right?
Right. So we wanted to produce a yarn that was just 100% wool. We didn't want to add polyamide or nylon or anything like that. And so we used, it's a hand spinning technique for adding strength, called an opposing ply technique, where basically one of the plies is tighter than the rest, and that ply adds extra strength to it. And if you look at your yarn, you can kind of see there's little kind of heathered flex to it, and that's from that plying technique. That's from that tighter ply that's there. And so that adds some strength as compared to just another 100% wool yarn. It adds some strength and also a different look about it. And so when we were fortunate enough to find somebody that could ply it for us and be able to do this for us was really, really exciting. So we're really grateful to be able to work with these families, again, family-owned companies that have been doing this and that are able to work with us to develop this yarn that's really unlike anything else that's available.
Yeah, and with that, the sad part of that is the first person that we contacted to work to make the yarn for us. They were really struggling by the time we got to this person. The company was really, going down the drain, and we didn't know. We got too late because, as you might know, China is becoming such a huge thing, and it's just, putting a lot of small, companies and families out of business.
Well, there's a lot of factors.
There's a lot of factors, but that's mainly the main factor in Uruguay. And Uruguay is not a cheap country. It's not, nothing is cheap in Uruguay. Most people think that, go to South America and everything will be cheap. No, not Uruguay. It's called the Switzerland of South America for a good reason. and it's very expensive. So when we got to this person, it was just a little too late. So he did a couple of things for us, and then all of a sudden he had to shut down because he couldn't pay the bills. It wasn't enough business for him. So we had to contact another person, and we explained, this is what we're doing. Can you do it? I said, of course we can do it. We will do it. And it turns out to be a really family-owned company, a really nice company. And we just love the way they do things.
Mm-hmm. Again, it's been in the family business for generations, and so it's really nice to continue being able to support these family companies, that are doing this, and to help be part of keeping that tradition alive, because it's definitely, like we said, wool, it's so part of the Uruguayan culture, and to have to leave, like it's happened a lot in the UK, where wool is a huge part in Ireland and parts of the UK, but almost nowhere can it actually be processed. And so we're really happy to be able to be part of keeping the processing and everything still within the country as well, because it's all together, it's all incorporated, it's all together, and right. We want to help continue keeping that generational tradition in Uruguay. And one thing that's been really fun too, since we've started this, is Jay's gotten in touch with a lot of the farmers actually who are growing the wool there in Uruguay. And that's traditionally, they grow their wool, they shear it, and they send it off, and that's the last that they ever see of it. And so it's been really fun to be able to be in touch with them and show them what is happening to their wool. Like they have been so grateful to be able to go on Instagram and see people using our yarn to make things, and just, the colors and how it is, and that their work is being appreciated, like just for them to know that there are people all over the world that are appreciating their work and what they're doing, and to know that it's not all for naught, like they're doing something that is making a lot of people really happy. And so that's been really great to kind of bring it back around to really, we owe it all to the farmers. We wouldn't have any of this beautiful product without their hard work. So
right. It's just a giving back to. In fact, we had Nick and I had a plan to donate some money to the farmers that raised the sheep. But then we run into this problem that we said, well, okay, well, we know where exactly which farm is giving us this lot of wool, and then we should give some back. But then talking to the company that actually washes all the wool and when I say, well, it's a little, because in some cases we just get the same micron count from different farms.
Yeah.
And then we really, in some cases you can, if you have an RWS certification, then you can tell, but in some other cases it's not quite the same.
But so that's something going forward.
Right, but it's in the back of our heads, that we will implement that,
right,
as we go.
As we get bigger and we're able to buy more quantities that we can focus on, we know it's coming specifically from this farm, and then we can, help give back and also bring kind of more attention to the specific farms where the wool's coming from.
That's fantastic. I'm glad that you talked about your special ply technique, because that really does set you apart in this entire yarn industry, not just the indie yarn industry, but commercially too. And we actually have a question from one of our people here. She was wondering, how does this special ply that is stronger work for socks? Would it be strong enough to make for a more lasting sock? She would love to stop using nylon in her sock yarns.
Right. So we definitely have made socks with it. I can tell you it's probably not going to be as strong as nylon. We haven't done any official testing or anything like that, but I can tell you it's probably not as strong as nylon. You see, I'm actually knitting a sock with it now. But so we haven't done testing as far as how does it compare. Obviously, I think in terms of who's using the smallest needle, I think I probably got it. I recommend knitting it as dense as you can. Maybe hold it double for the heels just to make sure. But I know we have a customer there close to you in Portland who has knit a whole bunch of socks with tiaras, with the non-super water.
Yeah.
And you just have to be more careful when you wash it, but so it's definitely possible. As far as how long does it last in comparison, and everybody wears their socks differently too, but
yeah.
It's definitely possible. It's
and I'm sure it's, if we can't quantify how much, how it compares to nylon, we know it's stronger than something that's just a traditional 100% merino.
Exactly.
So
that's just exactly that it's than just a regular traditional plied 100% merino. It is stronger than that for sure. Yeah.
Well, so you've given us a great picture of how your yarn is sourced and then spun, but then once it gets to you, where does the color magic happen? So you have favorite colorways to dye, or maybe palettes of colorways to dye. I guess this is probably pointing to Jay, right? Do you do most of the dyeing?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think my weak point is fall colors, I have to say. I really like to dye fall colors.
Your weak point meaning you like it so much you want to do it.
My strong point. I have a soft spot for fall colors. That's what I meant. Yeah. So I'll say fall colors without doubt. I absolutely love, and I like saturated colors. The more saturated, the better for me, because that's what I use for painting and whatnot. Like a very bright colors.
Yeah.
So when it came down to yarn, I said, okay, I'm gonna translate this into this fiber and see what happens.
Sometimes it's let's see how much can this yarn take. We're just gonna throw it all at it.
Yeah. So I'll say without doubt, fall colors is my favorite palette.
Yeah. And
I can tell in the batch of secretos that I just received, this is just amazing stretch on the wall of fall colors all together. It's so beautiful.
It's definitely our favorite palette for sure. I think a lot too though is he just likes to experiment, which it's fun. I'm the more mathematical person, so I'll take whatever he does and then write down the formulas so that we can be able to repeat it. And sometimes he goes in there and he does these things and it's the weirdest formula. I'm like, oh, where do these numbers come from? But I think that's a big part of it too, is he just likes to experiment and throw colors together and see what happens, and see what comes out of it.
Right. And then sometimes I'll think about a place that we've been to, because if you look at the names of our colors, and they're all just goofy for the most part. We got like Miracle Max, for instance. If you know Princess Bride, you know where it's coming from. They have another one to call the Princess Bride too, and Pit of Despair, and some other ones.
Yeah.
But places where we've been to that we just we remember those colors, and it brings you back to that place. We have a lot of those too, and kind of duplicate those colors that we've seen in Schladminse, for instance, in Austria. That it's a nice green and things like that. And but definitely fall colors. But we do have a very interesting surprise for spring next year.
Coming up for the spring,
very different to what we do. So.
So yeah.
Whole thing.
Well, thank you both so much. From all the way from agreeing to be part of this project to making the yarn and to being here today. It has been a true pleasure to work with both of you on this. So thank you again. Everybody say thank you
so much,
Jay and Nikki.
Thank you so much.
Yes, and I'm sure we will see you again soon.
Yes. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.